What's up, everybody? We're back. Another new episode of the Last Way podcast. Finally, through the holidays, through the sicknesses, back to recording every week. Welcome to the show. If you're new here, we go over topics like ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, nerd stuff, and conspiracies. As always, thanks for listening. It means a whole lot to us. Check us out on our Facebook page, our patreon.com. Oh gosh, where are we at? Twitter. We have the blog. We have a local paranormal group in the North Carolina area. Check us out. You can find us pretty much everywhere that normal people go. I guess. I guess. Either way, a lot of cool stuff going on. A lot of fun we're having. We're going to get into today's episode. Speaking of conspiracies, uh, I really haven't done one of these episodes in a while, but this is going to be Down the Rabbit Hole, episode 2. And basically, this is a series where we go into different conspiracies and things of that nature. Because these are always fun. These are always fun trips. Trying to look into the world of conspiracies and trying to find our way back out. So today we're going over one that I find very, very interesting. Not a lot of people really know about it or know that it's common to begin with. So today we're going over what's called the Cashless Society. This conspiracy is something of a modern one, a very modern one, really. Within the last decade, the push for less cash has been an ongoing battle that most people do not even notice. Multiple countries within the last 5 years are almost completely cashless at this point. With the advent of chipped credit cards making everything easier, this has only pushed the agenda further. The main issue here is the cash itself, especially in American terms. One person who really opened my eyes to this, Jordan Maxwell, is an occult researcher of multiple decades. His breakdowns of words like bank, bill, and lien are fascinating. The main point is that we, as regular people, don't actually own anything that we have ever bought with cash, or with American money for that matter. To put it simply, say a mechanic does some work on your car. They give you a bill for $100. You give the mechanic a $100 bill. You did not just buy or pay anything. You have exchanged a debt. So therefore you are even. And by willingly exchanging and keeping these terms, you are agreeing to them. So when you look at it, anything that you have ever paid for, in air quotes, you do not own. For that matter, when you think about paying for things with electronic currency, that's even worse. One wrong stroke of the keyboard or computer system malfunction, and everything that you have is gone. Either way, continuing on. The main reason for implementing a cashless society is not to make things easier or to save trees by printing less money. The simplest explanation is tracking. Every transaction you make is tracked at that point. No more yard sales, flea markets, mom and pop shops. Only bartering at that point would be possible between person to person. If you look at things from a historical perspective, like way back, biblically speaking, the mark of the beast also comes into play. Revelation 13:16 through 17, King James Version, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark on their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Some people are saying, of course, that we're all going to be chipped in the future, and that's the mark of the beast, and everyone's refusing to take it, and it'll never happen. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's definitely going to happen for sure. Not only is it going to happen, it is currently in motion. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day. Very straightforward, very Christian, by the book. It was a very interesting conversation. He said he would never take a chip in his hand because that would be the mark of the beast, obviously. I attempted to explain two simple things. One, it's already done. You have a bank card with a chip in it right now, more than likely. And if it comes down to it, number two, if your children are going hungry, most parents are going to do whatever it takes. Now, a scary part of this, again, Bible history completely aside, If you look at what is going on in modern day China with facial recognition and societal grading systems and the protests, imagine what a country like that would do if their citizens had no cash. They already have no guns and no ability to defend themselves. So imagine if they had no cash and had to pay electronically with everything. You were found out to be a protester, or in America's case, a conspiracy theorist. And at that point, a few clicks, they can freeze all your accounts, even your family's accounts. You can't buy, sell, get gas, get a loan, anything. So this is the idea of a cashless society, and it is very scary. Probably more scary and more relevant than anything I've talked about on this show, including horrifying creatures. And it's a very pressing matter in today's society. Now, I'll be open. This is an episode that I wrote the show notes for. I don't know when I started. Probably a couple weeks after I started the podcast. It was one of the earliest ones that I wrote because it was something I was seeing happening in the news then, and that's been a little while. Recent events, especially with China right now, if you look at their societal grading system, which is supposed to launch in 2022 officially, will basically say it's like a credit system that you keep with you at all times. So if your score is not high enough, you will not be able to get an apartment. You will not be able to rent, buy, sell, or trade anything until you get your score back up. So it basically is a way to keep certain people down at the level that the government thinks that they need to be at. This is a terrifying thing, and I hope people are listening when I try to explain this. Because if this comes, I mean, it won't take much. It doesn't take much at all. And I go on to that later in this episode. Because it has already happened around the world. And things like the impeachment and all the stuff flooding the news that just is not doing you any good, it makes no sense. It's all a show. Please understand me when I say this. It's all a show. Everyone that likes Trump, you need to understand that he's part of it too. And they're all part of the same similar system. It's all bull. It's all a show. It's all to hide something. Like we're seeing with Virginia. I know I'm getting off topic, so bear with me. Like we're seeing in Virginia currently with all of this gun rights and stuff, and the governor or somebody, I've just read a little bit of it, but they're basically getting ready to arm citizens and deputize citizens against the government of Virginia to defend themselves because they're going to go in and take everyone's guns. Like that kind of stuff is being voted on behind closed doors, and with bodies like the UN, they've been voting on guns and gun rules and red flag rules for the last couple of years. But you've never heard about it because you've heard about impeachment and how much everyone hates Donald Trump for the last couple of years. So I'm telling you, more than ever in the history of everything, of mankind, we've got to wake up. We've got to understand what's going on. We've got to understand the actual truth behind what we're seeing and what we're not being shown. That's the only way we're going to make it. So that's my little off-topic rant. It's not good. It's not looking good at all. Anyway, where was I? So, to prove that this is currently happening, and remember, this was months ago, and no one knew this was coming. None of the people in this country, no one. I guess the government knew, but of course they knew. In India, this was one of the first major countries to push for a cashless system that I had actually heard of until I started researching further. They started, again, it was a couple years ago. They started a couple years ago, I believe, and are still working towards a completely cashless system today. If you want a shining example of how not to do it, pay attention to what they did. Basically, a notice was put out to the general population that they had until a certain date to turn in all currency above a certain amount. If you put that in our terms, say our government put out a mass text message, a mass call, basically saying that you have a week to deposit into the bank every bit of cash you had that's above a $10 bill. That's basically what they did. So what happened? There were millions of people in lines around the country standing outside banks for days and ATMs for days, just standing there with stacks of cash in their hands. Their life savings, everything they had that was over a certain, not, I don't want to say a certain amount, but a certain bill. Like you could only have tens or twenties. That's something of that nature. I mean, this, can you imagine the incidents that would cause in America today? There would be riots, murders, looting, of course, because it doesn't take much for people to start looting, apparently. It would be completely pandemonium. I'm not sure how it wasn't that way in India, but imagine if you were standing there with your life savings of a few $1,000s and the guy in front of you has a few 100,000, and you have to look at that for the next 2 days while you patiently wait in your line to get to the bank to give up all your cash. I mean, even the most sane person would be tempted at least. But that is exactly what happened. People stood in line, they deposited all their cash, and now they can only have a certain amount. But moving to Europe, even the bankers do not want to go cashless. It's a bad plan when the banks are not into it. An article I found on Politico starts out by stating that Europe's central bankers are warning that a gradual phase out of cash in many countries poses a serious threat to the financial system, as relying too heavily on digital payment systems exposes them to catastrophic failures in the event of cyber attacks. Again, cyber attacks or EMPs would just completely erase everything. Regulators are also weighing in to say that IT failures, systemic hacking risks, and the fact that more vulnerable members of society will be alienated in a cashless world all argue in favor of keeping a robust system in place, i.e., cash. Surprisingly, that's coming from Europe. However, a separate article I found makes a good point. In 2008, many rushed to take their money out of the banks. If the financial system really, oh, sorry, not however, but this is in line with it. If the financial system really was as close to the breaking point as we were told it was, then such actions would be quite justified. When Cyprus's banks teetered on the cliff of financial disaster in 2011, we saw bail-ins. Ordinary people's money deposited in deposit accounts was sequestered to bail out the system. If your life savings were threatened with confiscation to bail out a corporation you considered corrupt, I imagine you too would rush to withdraw all of your money. Banks these days already do not accept even slightly large forms of cash payments. I saw a video years ago, maybe 2016. A guy at a bank was trying to make a home payment and had cash laid out on the bank manager's desk, and they refused to take it. He got mad when he started asking them what the problem was, so he began filming with his cell phone. I thought this was a bit overplayed, but that was until I attempted to buy a home. I attempted to use some early retirement funds that I had as my down payment. I had taken some of the money out and previously put it into a safe where it was safe at home in cash form. When I needed it, when I needed the cash to make the down payment, they told me I could not deposit the money because they could not track where it came from. I'm not joking, that is literally what they said. The banks would not take my cash, as if I had gotten it from drug dealings or something of that nature. So, drug dealers they won't deal with, but high crime money they will take just fine. That was my first real world personal aha moment that this cashless society thing is no joke. At least when we have cash, we feel empowered. It's illusion, of course, as I described earlier, due to the fact that we're exchanging bills for bills, but it is still a nice illusion to have. So I hope I didn't bring everybody down in the dumps uh, too much with the conspiracy. Sometimes that's just what we do. But sometimes the world we live in is just a bit more secretive than we'd like to think. We just have to be awake and focused, stay vigilant. But that is what is going to do it for our episode today. It's a pretty crazy topic. I hope everybody learned a little. I certainly, as always, encourage you to look into the topic and read up on it because it is super interesting what these countries are doing. I didn't have it in there, but while doing my research, I do remember reading an article of a couple that was on a subway or a rail system, and they were found to have what I think it was like $2,800 worth of euros. It was in a European country, and they were arrested for having that high amount of cash. you know, I just that blew my mind. And this is stuff that's happening again behind our backs. The people that are actually in charge of stuff in the world, um, they're just doing this stuff, and we're sit here and shown whatever we're shown with the impeachment and all this BS and all this malarkey, and it's all fake. None of it's real, and what's going on behind the scenes is going to end up, getting a lot of people hurt, getting a lot of people killed, and it's not going to be a good time. And my little podcast that me and a few other people do here and that we work on, hopefully we'll get heard by some few more people and they'll start to understand what's going on. And I don't know, maybe we'll eventually start changing some minds. But for now, anybody that's listening, again, thank you as always for listening. Open your mind, pay attention to the man behind the curtain and to what's really going on. And I'll leave you with this. I don't know if I'll do a whole episode on this because it'll take a lot of research and a lot of time. But in the 1870s, I believe it was, a patent, I guess you would say, was filed for a company, the United States. Basically, European bankers officially named this country or named this company the United States. So that's what we are today. And this is a real dumbed down version of it. I don't have any notes in front of me, but it's just a general topic. And I may end up doing an episode just because it's so crazy. But that's where we're at now. We're not free. We are part of the system. We're basically employees. That's why we have things like you have to have a license to fish. You have to have insurance on your car. It's not to protect you. It's to protect the company's product, which is us. And that's why they have to track everything. They have to have all this stuff. You have to have a license to be married officially in the eyes of the government because we are products. We are our own companies, our own entities. So you merge two companies together, you sign a deal, and that's basically what happens. That's why we have social security numbers. That is our employee ID numbers. It's once you start seeing some of this stuff and reading into it, it's bananas. That's, in my opinion, looking back, you see a lot of presidents. They're always, God bless us, God bless the United States of America. But we're not the United States of America anymore. We are the U.S., the United States. That's why it's the U.S. government, not the USA government. It's not because it sounds cool or sounds nicer, it sounds smoother. It's because it's the United States government. You got to pay attention to the words. They do it on purpose. They do it because no one understands, because we don't know, because we're not taught to know. We're taught to know random math that we're never going to use, or one person might use one day. We're not taught what we need to be taught. So, I don't know. I'm off topic, but I know just seeing like with what's going on in Virginia, this whole impeachment stuff, it's scary. Like we're at a point in the world where, I couldn't tell you what's going to happen next week. We could be in full blown civil war in a week. And I remember hearing a couple of years ago, it was a financial person on probably Coast to Coast or something. And basically they said, if you go to your bank on a Friday and for some reason the banks are down, they can't release your money, you can't get your money out, can't mess with your money, technical issues, whatever. By Monday is how long it will take us to fall into just complete pandemonium as a country. It takes 2 to 3 days. And no one is really prepared for that. No one is really prepared for 2 or 3 days, and all of a sudden we're in, open war, martial law, FEMA's coming in, putting everybody in camps, whatever. So really pay attention. Look at other news sources. Don't watch American news. You're not learning anything. Just please. But that's my parting message. I'm gonna get off here. Keep your eyes open. Head on a swivel. Go out there and learn something today. You know, just turn the TV off, read a book. That's all I can really give you. Anyway, again, we got off topic today, but thanks for listening. As always, catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, the blog, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.